Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, respected parents, esteemed guests, faculty members, and our brilliant CLAT achievers. On behalf of Career Launcher and Law Entrance Training, I extend a warm welcome to each one of you to the CLAT Achievers Meet 2026. Today is not just an event, it is a celebration of determination, discipline, perseverance, and dreams turning into reality. We are gathered here to honor some of the Mumbai's finest CLAT achievers, students who have secured outstanding ranks and earned admission into prestigious national law universities, including the country's premier law institution, NLSIU Bangalore. But before we applaud their success, let us remember an important truth. No success story is ever written by an individual alone. Behind every student who stands victorious today is a family that believed in them, encouraged them during moments of doubt, celebrated small milestones, and stood firmly beside them through every challenge. Today, we are not only celebrating the achievements of our students, we are celebrating the victories of their parents as well. To all the parents here, your sacrifices, patience, faith, and unwavering support have been the foundation upon which these achievements were built. When your child stayed up late preparing, you stayed awake worrying. When they faced setbacks, you gave them courage. When they questioned themselves, you reminded them of their potential. This ranks belongs to the students, but this success belongs to the entire family. Let us give a huge round of applause to all the parents and guardians who have been silent partners in the remarkable journey. Yeah. So remember, dreams do not work unless you do. And the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often just that little extra made consistently over time. Today is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of a much bigger one. The future lawyers, policymakers, leaders, entrepreneurs, and change makers sitting in this room will shape the future of our nation. Once again, a huge round of applause for everyone sitting here. And now comes the most special part of the evening. It is a time to recognize and celebrate the hard work, dedication, and exceptional achievement of our CLAT toppers. Congratulations, Jia. NLSIU Bangalore. Congratulations, Vinayak. Jia. Rashi. Congratulations, Asta.
Good evening to all of you here. Thank you for coming in today on a very special evening. This is the day when we celebrate all the years' hard work. When I was small, I was told by someone, if you want to do well in life, surround yourself by achievers. I think that's what I managed to do today, surrounded by a lot of achievers around me. So it's wonderful to have you guys here on stage. Before we start, I would just like to, thank you so much. This helps. I would just like to kind of make it very clear in terms of what are we planning to do over the next 1 hour or so that the next 1 hour is going to be about these gurus. They're not my students anymore now. So these are the gurus now who are going to give you the guru mantra to do well in the CLAT 27-28. Before we start, just a quick show of hands. How many here are going to write the CLAT this year? That's a reasonable number. And the CLAT 28, that will be the next year. Okay, so we have a good mix of both. Before we start, 4 things that will be happening here. So these are the 4 things we are going to start with: the journey, their challenges, their preparation, and their support. We're going to discuss this. I would like each student here sitting in the audience to try to take 2 or 3 key things from this session. Don't clutter your mind with too much. I think there'll be a lot of suggestions that will be coming your way. Some of them might be even contradictory, right? But I think if you can take away a few things, and from my experience of the last 20 odd years, I can tell you one thing. There will always be a few things that will connect all the toppers. Whether it's in terms of their attitude, whether it's in terms of their effort, there will be certain things that will connect all of them. But a few things, when you go at a micro level, might be very different. So I want each one in this room to see if you could, take away those 2 or 3 pearls of wisdom, but more importantly, things that you can implement over the next 6 to 7 months, especially for the ones who are preparing for the CLAT in this coming December. Okay, so we'll start with the journey, and all of you have the mics. So we have got 3 mics. You can share it among yourselves. Great. So we'll start with the journey. I want to first ask a very basic question. How many of you were on the other side last year? You were there? 1, 2, 3, all of you. You were not there, okay? You were not there, you were not there, right? Okay. So I think a majority of the people on the stage were at one point sitting here, last year, I guess. How many of you attended 2 Achievers Meets? You attended 2? Okay, lovely. And I hope when we end the session today, each one in this room would want to be here next year. At least the ones who are write the CLAT this year would want. I would love to see those that number here. 12 people in the top 100, right? That's what we want. Okay. Let's start with your journey, and this is open for everyone, right? So I just want, for the benefit of the audience, each one of you can just quickly talk about your profile, as in which stream are you from and which board are you from, so that the audience can connect to you better. So if you just tell which board and which stream, we can start with Atulya. Audible? No, it's not. Okay, just turn it on if you.
Commerce CBSE.
Commerce CBSE, okay.
With maths.
With math, okay. Yeah.
I was in CBSE Humanities.
CBSE Humanities, okay.
I was in ISC Humanities with maths.
With maths, okay.
I was in HSC Humanities.
I was in CBSE Commerce.
Yeah.
I was in CBSE Commerce with Maths.
CBSE Commerce with maths. I think I'm getting a lot of questions right now for people who are now getting into 11th standard. Should we take math? Yeah? Yeah. So, yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Sorry. ISC Commerce with Math. Yeah.
ISC Commerce with math.
Commerce.
ISC Commerce. No, I think we need to make it. Is it on? Hello, hello.
Yes, HSC Arts.
CBSE Commerce with Maths.
I was in HSC Science.
Okay, so finally we have someone from science as well, right? Just in case people are wondering, yes, science koi nahi hai. Yeah, and yeah, there's some representation from science as well. But incidentally, this may not be a representative of the whole of India, right? I think we have got 11 students here today who will be joining NLSIU Bangalore, which is kind of a dream school for most of the students here. But science may not be adequately represented here. But in Bangalore, that's a decent number, right? There's a decent number of students from science as well. Okay, let's start with your journey. How many of you are 2-year students here? Preparing for 2 years? 1, 2, 3. Okay, all of you. All of you have been SPAN students, preparing for the last 2 years. So I think that gives us a basic background of the students, what they are. And I guess let's start their journey through their challenges itself, right? So the first challenge that I want all of you to talk about is the mental challenge, right? When you started preparing for this exam, how many of you genuinely believed, I know it's fine to say I want Bangalore and I want to be in the top 100, top 200. How many of you genuinely believed that with whatever your background was, you will be here on stage? Like, when was that moment that you realized, okay, I think I have a fair chance of being in the top 100, 200, 300, 400, 500? Was it there from the start, or did it happen over a period of time? At some point, what was that challenge all about? Was there a challenge in the first place? Anyone can open up in terms of whether you wanted to do well, but okay, the competition is huge. But there was one moment I realized that, okay, now I think I have a fair chance. When did that happen? Yeah, anyone can just open up.
I mean, in all honesty, the day I realized that I was going to like a top tier NLU was the day I got my rank. I genuinely had no idea and I just wanted to, put in my best, but I wasn't thinking about the end result as much as I was thinking about just making it through, the 1 month, 1 week, basically.
So what, can you just tell the audience what was your first mock score?
My first mock score, I think, was like a 70.
Okay,
but then I
bad.
dropped afterwards. I dropped to, I think, my lowest like pretty quickly to a 50, and then it was like an upward battle from there.
Okay. Anyone else would like to tell about some challenge that you faced?
So when I joined in the beginning, I really thought that I could make it. Like in the beginning, starting classes, I'm like, yeah, this is something I can do. And then came last year around, till that belief, I had some confidence that I'll be able to do it. And then came like mocks started. Starting mocks were good, but then came last year around June, or maybe even before, like May, June. And that time my mock score started dropping so much. I started questioning myself, like, was that belief actually correct? Like, that thought that I could make it? And I really started questioning everything. Some people are scoring in hundreds, and I'm here stuck in like 70s, 80s. Can I yet make it? And then from there, in the start, it was not a mental challenge. It was just like practice, practice, practice. But after like June, July, August, then it started convincing myself also, okay, no, you have to sit, you have to do it also. Because I had no motivation to study, and my mock scores were dropping, and I'm like, there's no point of studying. But then every morning I had to wake up, I had to convince myself, okay, no, maybe tomorrow's mock will be better. So for that, I have to study today. And then slowly, slowly, every day went by. And then maybe in the last 15 days, I started believing again, because my scores started going upwards. And then last 15 days were good, but before that, the last 5-6 months was very bad, the mental challenge.
Okay. Anyone else had a challenge in terms of just the belief that, I belong there?
Hi. So I think the biggest challenge for me in its starting point, not a lot of friends of mine were doing CLAT. Most of them, go towards the science conventional streams like JEE or NEET, right? So who do you compare yourself to? So in the first year, when we didn't have any mocks, it was difficult to understand where do we stand. The first mock came, and I found myself questioning my score. Is it good, is it bad? Because again, no way to know. Honestly, no way to know. Then sometimes the scores would drop, sometimes they would rise. It's a journey. But I think relatability is an important challenge. Just make good friends who can help you get your scores up. Yeah.
Okay. I want to address one more challenge. So this was largely a question. This is a question actually for the guys who are right now in standard 11th, right? When you look back, I know most toppers will tell me that last 6 months was when you really pushed, right? This is the time last year when you guys got serious about it. I'm presuming last 6 months definitely would have been a push. How many of you took your 11th super lightly? And would you advise that? Yeah? Yeah? I know some of you did not, so don't lie. Please, you can be honest about it. But how many of you did not do justice to your 11th so much, right? You were like, okay, it's a honeymoon period. It's sandwiched between 2 tough years. So, yeah? Kritika?
Yeah, hello. So I think I took both my 11th and 12th very lightly. My focus was always on CLAT. Whether I would advise.
No. So I think I got my question wrong. How many of you took your 11th lightly for CLAT?
Yes, I took it lightly for CLAT. I started preparing for CLAT right from the onset. I always knew CLAT was the thing which was going to get me into a good college. So yes, CLAT was always the priority.
So 11th you were quite serious about it?
Yes, from 11th I was quite serious.
Yeah. Anyone would like to stark difference between 11th and 12th? Like 11th was chilled and then 12th was suddenly you had to wake up and go all out?
I was extremely chilled in 11th standard. I don't think I even touched my books properly in 11th for CLAT. In 12th...
guys from 11th standard, close your ears. Not for you. Okay? And those who are in 12th, there is hope. Because I think 11th is gone now. You already had a honeymoon year, so yeah, okay.
In 11th, I mostly focused on my school. I mean, not that much, but somewhat. In 12th, I totally ignored my schoolwork and focused fully on CLAT from around May onwards. So I was able to cover up, but I hoped I had started earlier. Would be easier then.
Yeah. I don't know whether some of you would be able to give the time that these guys gave for their CLAT in the last 6 months. We'll talk about it when we go into the effort, the preparation. I won't be surprised if some of the effort would be something like 6 to 8 hours a day. And I don't know how many of you will be able to do that. So it's always good to start early, right? If you have that head start, it always helps. Anyone here who had a big difference between 11th and 12th?
I actually had made a plan that in 11th I would study, like clear my basics of commerce in school, and then I would study for CLAT in 12th. But in 11th I studied for nothing, I relaxed. And when 12th came, I relaxed again, and then I started studying from June. But that time I made a promise to my class teacher in school that I would bring a rank and that please grant me some leaves so that I can sit at home and study. And then later when I did get a rank, she was very happy, so there was no problem. So I could give time. But I would not recommend that for everyone here. You should start studying from 11th, and for the basics, at least get your maths clear, your quants clear in 11th.
Okay. The third challenge I want to talk about, and again, this may not be applicable to all of you, is the challenge of social media. How many of you were into it, or that was a big challenge to come out of it, right? There was a big amount of time that was going for social media, and that was really impacting your preparation for the CLAT or your 12th. Anyone felt that was a challenge? Yeah? Okay. So all the others, are you telling me, were not into social media at all? No Insta, nothing? Completely out of it. Okay. I get this problem every time in the PTMs, right? बच्चा पढ़ाई कब तक करता है? 11 o'clock. बच्चा सोता कब है? 2:33. What happens between 11 and 2? Something else, right? I think it's an addiction. One of the common, I've seen so many inspiring stories of toppers who have created a folder saying waste of time and put all the apps there, right? So people have sacrificed. There is no free lunch. Fortunately, most of them were not into it. But I promise you one thing, if you are into it in a very big way, and that's taking a big chunk of your time, it's going to be a very, very difficult task going forward. So you'll have to come out of it, but yeah, we'll continue. Someone was, yeah.
I mean, obviously I did struggle with social media, but then to kind of get over it, I was lucky to have friends who weren't doing CLAT, but then they would kind of shame me out of it. So they would force me to deactivate my account. And they would basically say, oh, वापस दिखी Instagram पे तो देख लेना. So I think that was pretty helpful. But I know that not everyone has, such kind of social support with them. And so maybe I think it is, obviously, you will have to make it up will have to make up your mind and, just keep your phone away, basically.
That's insane. She had friends who stopped her from getting into social media, and they were not preparing for CLAT also. I don't know how many of you are fortunate to have those kind of friends. But yeah, okay. Then the last challenge that I want to talk about before we go to the prep, that's the main part, was the challenge of your scores, the mocks itself, right? there will be ups and downs. Obviously, your preparation can't be a linear curve up, so there will be ups and downs, right? Was the mock declines very challenging for you in terms of mentally picking up back again? How do you overcome that? I don't want to get into the analysis part. We will deal with that later. But how do you cope with failures? Let me call it as failures, right? Mini failures, we can call it. Because there are a lot of students who give up on this preparation because of scores not going up, or scores getting stagnated in a range, and whatever you do, it's not going up beyond a point. So how did you guys deal with it? Anyone can pick up, yeah.
So I think my lowest score was 56, and when I received the scores, I was heartbroken. It was so low. Out of 120, I wasn't even halfway through. And then I decided to make an error log, writing all the mistakes that I did in the mocks and why I did them. And a majority of them was that I was skimming through the text, the reading passage, and my attention span wasn't satisfactory. So I decided to meditate for around 5 minutes before I went to bed. And obviously the results, the outcome of the meditation wasn't very clear, but in the long run, it helped me a lot. Like, I think a major part of why I received this rank was because of the meditation and I did, and the focus I attained from it.
Wow, okay. Yep, Sunny. Yep, say loudly now. No. Yeah, I think it's fine.
I think the biggest roadblock in the process was the mental challenge. Facing those mocks where you're not. Yeah, the biggest mental block was the fact that there were some mocks where not only the scores fell, but the percentile fell. And there was not as much in the beginning of the journey as in the middle of it. So there was a point where there was a plateau in my score. Sometimes the scores dropped. There were some mocks which I thought were harder, but maybe others didn't. And that disappointment was the biggest challenge I faced. But ultimately, what helped me was reminding myself that you're in this for the long run. As I think all of us are, we were in the 2-year batch. So every time I would face something like that, I would remind myself that a bad score does not guarantee your performance. A good score also does not guarantee your performance. There's always going to be unpredictability in the way. And what I think helped me was not letting a bad mock go waste. So what I would do was a simple thing like coming back to reattempt the mock or certain sections which I felt where I could have performed better. And ultimately just sticking with the process, just being regular and consistent with what you're doing, maybe even improving your process to work with those difficulties and not letting them get the better of you, because you can't afford to be jarred by such low scores. For example, my first mock was the lowest score I've had, and that was pretty scary because your first mock is usually when you think that you've got it all and you're pretty good at what you're doing. And after that, even when there were ups and downs, just reminding myself that you've got this, you have to be regular, just use what you've got and try to make the best of it work for me.
Right. Anyone else wants to talk about a mock? How did you guys go through that disappointment of a mock? How did you, because that is going to be a big challenge for us, a lot of kids here, right? Every week they're writing a mock. And there will be times when it comes down dramatically. There will always be that one bad mock, which is going to be a big, big disappointment, right? How do you overcome that? Yeah, Sia.
So I recall this from, I think, there was some online meet of the career launcher sirs, and they said that don't look at your bad mock score, look at the percentile, in fact, because a mock can be hard for everyone, so maybe a percentile will help you more. But bad mocks are inevitable, good mocks are also inevitable. I used to send the scores of my good mocks to my parents' group chat, but whenever I got a bad, I didn't want to send. I was embarrassed of it, in fact. So, but at the end of the day, then I used to think to myself, a bad mock, in fact, I used to say this to my friends, a bad mock is actually a good mock, because it is teaching you so much more than a good mock, an easy one, right? So just look at it that way, and I hope it helps. Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, so any other challenges that anyone wants to talk about? Mental challenge, anything else that was you thought as a challenge? A big challenge to overcome that helped you kind of, nerves, yep.
I think so. Sitting for those 2 hours with full concentration was also like a huge challenge for me, because I remember there were a few mocks where I'd just go, I'd start the mock, and then there would come this one passage in some section which I would not understand, and then I would just sit back. And I'm like, I can't do this mock anymore, and I just give the mock and I'd come back home and I'd cry. Because that one passage in that one mock would make me give up that entire mock. And then I realized that wasting one entire mock just because of one passage is not worth it. If I don't get that one passage, I can just shut it and move on to a different section, or maybe to another passage, or to a section that I'm more comfortable with. So those 2 hours, sitting for those 2 hours and constantly motivating myself and being concentrated was also like a huge challenge for me.
Great. So now we go into the main part of the day today, right? The preparation. Because this is where I think each one of you needs to look at things that they did. We are going to dissect the 3 major sections. And why I'm saying 3 sections, I'm going to club the reading sections, the 80 questions of the paper, logic, legal, and English into one category. And then we will deal with quant, and then we will also deal with general knowledge, which I'm sure there will be a lot of questions which I will make it open forum after a point, and you can ask. But let's start with the reading sections first, right? Now, we all know that when you guys started the preparation, the reading sections largely were reading comprehension based, right? I mean, there was not much of AR, which came eventually in the paper, but it was largely critical reasoning. There was a lot of reading to be done in RC. There was a lot of reading to be done in legal as well, right? Now, I want again maybe connect it to the first part, right? How many of you faced reading as a challenge? I know that's almost like a given in these exams, that you need to read well. But for how many of you reading was a problem, and how did you overcome that? And if I can know what was the weakest area in that, and if each one of you could talk about your weakest in those 3, and what did you do for it? What was the challenges you faced? What was the kind of mistakes you guys were doing? And how did you overcome that? I would like each one to talk on this. If each one of you can pick up that one area that you felt was, we can also talk about AR later, but let's talk about the reading sections first, right? How important was reading fast? A lot of people believe that you have to read as fast as you can, right? Does that help? Or is there something else? What would be that one mantra to make sure that your reading scores are really good? Because you can't afford to be bad in any of these 3 areas, right? So, yeah, Vihan, hi. Come. No worries, hi. Yeah, so we'll start with Sia. Each one of you can just talk for a minute, 2 minutes on the area that you felt was your weakest, and how did you overcome that?
Again, for the students who are giving the mocks, it's pretty clear that CLAT is a very reading-heavy paper. You have to read in not only the 3 reading sections of English, logical, and legal, but also GK has reading, quants also has reading. So when you first start giving those mocks, it's difficult to process all that information that fast. In fact, I think this is relatable to some of you. You're reading, but you're not actually processing anything, and the lines just become a blur. So, and school doesn't prepare you for that. So I think the way to solve it is just build up a reading habit. Again, newspapers, of course. Just reading that newspaper every day, again, you are processing a lot of information, different information, and you're storing it in your brain. So I think it helps prepare you for CLAT in a way.
Any specific newspapers that you refer to?
I started with Hindu, direct.
Okay.
So Indian Express is also good, but I think the Hindu editorials were very similar to what used to come in legal or reading comprehension.
Okay, yeah.
For me personally, logical reasoning was where I had a problem with. And again, to answer your question, quality over quantity is what I thought was important, because it doesn't matter if you're reading the passage fast, if you're having to go back to it twice and thrice. So maybe read it once or twice is what I did, but try to understand or try to analyze the passage as much as you can during that time. For logic particularly, what worked for me was trying to understand the question stems. So there are most weakening, assumption type of questions, because each question stem has a different way of attempting it. For example, there is assumption conjunction negation techniques for some questions. Similarly, there's a difference between central theme and main point. So things like that worked. So when you understand the question stem and you do targeted practice, it helped me to work with the other type of questions as well. For example, most weakening. One thing I did for logical reasoning was trying to practice on AILET type of questions where you get just 3-4 lines and then you have to select the option, because they give you very targeted raw practice that will help you fine-tune your skills. And once I felt I was confident enough with the AILET type of questions, I would go ahead with the CLAT passage type of questions, and that helped me at the end. Again, analytical reasoning paid off this year, so logical reasoning does include that as well. And apart from that, I think for English and legal, English prep I felt was more or less similar to logic, except there are a few more areas, like there is grammar, there is vocabulary, tones, figures of speech, and everything, for which Aparna Miss had given us notes and flashcards, which helped me to work on that. And for legal reasoning, just familiarizing ourselves with the basic concepts, like for the first 6 months, just knowing the very basics of a particular institute, for like a contract or a crime. They give you an innate familiarity with the passage, so even when you come across those in the mocks or the actual paper, you know that. So you're able to have that confidence boost, you're able to go through that better and more effectively and answer those questions accordingly.
Great. Before we go to Vihan, because she mentioned about AILET, AILET now is going to be compulsory for people who don't want to go to Delhi because it's unsafe. I know a lot of parents who say, boss, mera bachcha Delhi nahi jayega. Okay? A lot of the questions that came in the CLAT were more based on the AILET pattern this year. And anyone who took the AILET seriously would have probably done a better job as compared to someone who had completely left AILET for options or whatever. You don't want to go to Delhi. So please make sure that you are focusing on both the exams. CLAT and AILET are within 1 week of each other. You will not get time after CLAT to focus on it. So if you're preparing for both, I think you're fairly sorted in that sense. Yeah.
Hi. So first of all, sorry I'm late, sir.
No
sorry,
worries,
everyone.
Yeah.
So as Sia mentioned, reading is like essential for every section of CLAT. Doesn't matter if it's quant, GK. I would say even GK does require some level of reading, because a lot of times the passages require you to infer the answer for certain questions. So if you're in 11th grade, I would say focus right now purely on developing a reading habit. And read as eclectically as you can. Don't just read things related to law or politics, because we tend to think that those are the topics that are more likely to come in the paper. But oftentimes you'll see questions come related to business, related to science, related to history. Read as eclectically as you can, so no matter what the passage is, it will always be accessible to you. Yes, you may not always know the exact topic that's being mentioned, you may not know the ins and outs of it all, but if you have that general habit, because you read so often, your comprehension will be greater, and secondly, the ideas will be more accessible to you, and therefore you'll waste less time trying to understand what the question is asking, instead of just randomly ticking whatever you think is the right answer. So read as eclectically as you can, read as often as you can.
Vihan, any specific sources that you would like to talk about that you read?
So I started with the Indian Express. So the pattern was similar, that I'll go through the important topics, I'll go through editorials. One thing I consciously did is I tried to read the ideas page as well. So oftentimes you think the ideas page are not as relevant because they're opinion pieces on very niche kind of topics. But read those, because yes, first the opinions expressed in those, they will help expose you to more ideas or facts and figures that may be relevant to what may come in the question paper. So read the ideas page other than just the editorial. And if there are certain topics that you don't like I hated economics related articles, I despise them. Read what you don't like, because it's better to be prepared for the worst than to be caught off guard.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, so for me personally, in a few mocks, I really struggled with legal reasoning. And, low marks in legal reasoning hurt more than the other sections do. So for that, I realized that, sometimes I was just using my general knowledge instead of focusing on what was in the passage. So you have to remember that the passage is your Bible during the examination. And whatever the passage says, you have to choose your option and your answers according to that. And similarly, in English and logic also, I think there are two types of challenges which are mostly faced. First is that the passage is very dense with information, And secondly, maybe the passage is easy, but there are option traps. So you have to prepare for both these things. And as Bihan said, I think brilliant that you have to read eclectically. I personally struggled with passages, but those are also very important. As we saw this year in CLAT English also, there was a fiction passage. So you have to read eclectically. Hindu and Indian Express were my sources of choice, but whatever floats your boat, really. So yeah, that would be my advice.
For me, the problem was either in logical or legal reasoning. And I eventually realized that while I'm attempting these passages, I have to put aside my external knowledge, just ignore it and see what's in the principle, what's written there, answer questions based on that. And another thing was, if you can grasp the, the core of the passage, you will be able to answer all the questions properly. And for that, you just have to absorb what's written in the passage instead of just reading the words in it. So that's what a newspaper would help you with, ideally, in my opinion.
And what was your source?
The Hindu.
The Hindu, okay.
Personally, in some mocks I had a problem with English, or in some mocks I had a problem with logic. That will get corrected over time as you practice more mocks and read more passages. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
Hi. I think for any of the 3 reading sections, if you grasp the core of the passage, I think it will really help you, because CLAT is an English-based paper, so you need to be really good at what the text is trying to say. So, and they can only ask few types of questions. For example, in English or logical, I don't really remember that well now, but I think they can ask inference-based questions or like odd one out. So like the more you practice those types of questions, because they won't ask something which is out of the passage, right? So you need to grasp whatever type of questions they're asking in the paper, because there isn't many, because there's only like a half-page passage. And I think my sources were any English text, like be it a storybook or be it an article about geopolitics. I think the more you read from everywhere, any source, the more you grasp whatever available in the internet, I think it will really help you a lot.
Yeah, I think these are great advices, especially the guys who are going to start the prep now, who are in 11th standard, going into 11th standard. This is a great time to get into reading habits, right? Unfortunately, a lot of people are not into heavy reading, but this could be a good time to change those habits. Start getting into the newspaper is always going to be there at your house. So make sure that you're doing some conscious effort in terms of improving your reading habits. Yeah.
So initially, I was not a very habitual reader until I started preparing for CLAT seriously. So it was very difficult for me to concentrate in mocks to like read those long passages. I used to skim through my passages and attempt the questions, which gave a lot of negative marking in my scores. But later, I was very interested in GK. That section was always easy for me. So I started with reading long essays or articles about current legal affairs or current affairs. And that's how I started learning that habit of reading. And then I started with newspapers initially. The Indian Express, and then I used to sit with editorials, and I would try to break down the editorial and try to understand the author's tone or the motive, and that really gave me a perspective.
Yeah, Zara.
So for me, English but I used to read a lot. I used to love reading, so those sections were good for me. But when I was to read, I used to read particular type of books. Like my reading used to not be very different from like what I used to read. So then there's this website called Aeon. It has essays, CLAT styled essays, maybe a bit longer, but those really helped me read different genres. Like in the morning, if I felt like reading economics, I'd start reading something like that. So I made sure that I read 2 different essays, like one in the morning, one in the evening. And I used to read a lot of foreign newspapers also, like the New York Times or something like that, Financial Express, because I like knowing what was happening in the world, and the English that they use is amazing. So.
Okay, good.
I was fortunate to have like sort of an appetite for reading, and so I never really struggled with particularly reading in terms of like, paying attention or things like that, but I would really struggle with catching the nuances in legal especially. And so to cope with that, I would pay a lot of specifically pay a lot of attention in legal classes, and I would also refer to the videos that Career Launcher would upload for the legal section, and I'd also refer to sectional tests, and in my mocks as well, I would pay a lot of attention to my legal performance and sort of to develop an idea of what things we'd have to focus on while attempting a legal section. And I'd kind of a lot of times I would struggle with my own morals, and that would clash with the legal principles, and so I would have to focus on kind of just getting myself in that kind of mentality of having to discard whatever previous what are previous notions that I held.
Yeah, Asta.
In general, like in all reading sections, what helped me the most was I practiced so much that I got an intuition for what the right answer is going to be. Otherwise, in classes, we were taught a lot of techniques of elimination. And initially, beside each option, I used to write down on what grounds I'm eliminating it, like if it's broad or it's too narrow. But after a point, it will come to you naturally, and you don't need to actually write it down. So also, you need to learn how to navigate a passage. But again, that will only come once you practice a lot.
Sure.
So practicing was the key for me.
So I read a lot, so reading itself wasn't a big problem for me, but I used to give my mocks on Sunday. After 4 hours of class, I used to get exhausted. So after reading 3 sections, I used to feel extremely sleepy. So what helped me was that I started developing an image in my mind of the passage, a sort of a flow chart. And that also helped me crack the main idea of the passage as well. And whenever you're confused in a question between 2 options, it's mostly the main idea that helps you out. The option which is more related to the main idea is mostly the correct one. And as Asta pointed out, the BEAST model was also very effective, and it helped me a lot in eliminating options.
Okay, so there are some techniques taught, right, for elimination. I mean, eventually the accuracy depends on how well you eliminate options, right? And it's always a case of 2 options confusing you, and how do you eliminate the one, or rather than saying which is the right answer, you want to know which is the wrong answer, right? It's easier to figure that out. And I'm sure there are some techniques taught. How do you master those techniques? Maybe some couple of inputs here. The BEAST method, for example. People know what is BEAST. Broad, extreme, sidetrack, blah, blah, blah. But how do you master it? Because it's in theory, it's fine. But now that 6 months are left for people who have to take the CLAT in December, how do I make the most of those techniques or how do I make my elimination better through the mocks? Anyone would like to, anyone worked specifically on elimination techniques in terms of how do they make my, yeah.
So whenever I would give a mock, I would use the BEAST model. I would, as Asta did too, I would write down whether it was the broad part because of which I eliminated it, or whether it was anything else. And when I would practice that time as well, I would use that. And it's practice. That is how you master it. There is no way else.
Yeah.
So for me, I used to be confused between 2 options. So if I was ticking one option, I'd dot the other option. And then if I would go home and then I'd realize why that dot option was correct, then I'd try to figure out why I chose the tick mark over the dot. And then for me, knowing what I was confused during the mock about, and then if what I chose was correct or wrong, really helps. So maybe it can help, like if you dot the option you're confused with, and then analyze that option specifically.
Yeah. See, as far as I'm concerned, if you are not in a position to analyze the questions that you solve, be it a mock, be it a topic test or a section test, if you cannot analyze it, you're wasting your time solving that mock. It's just absolute waste of time. You're just going to mark an answer because you think it is right. I don't think it's ever going to make your scores better, right? So it's all about analysis. I think it's about heavy analysis that goes into it. Okay, I will keep it open later for any specific questions on these 3 areas, but we'll move on to the next big challenge. And I'll spend some time on this because GK, right? And I'm sure there will be a lot of questions here. Boss, GK ka kya kare? Before I go there, it's always going to be a case of yahi karna tha to itna kyun prepare kiya, right? Why the hell did we do so much? Because I don't think the CLAT this year, or AILET for that matter, gave GK which was ridiculously difficult. I think it was fairly straightforward. I don't think it could have cribbed about any questions as to ye kahan se aaya. So I think it was fairly okay. But I'm sure you must have done a lot more than that, right? So I would quickly want each one of you to talk about your GK prep, specifically the last 6 months, right? June, we are in June right now. So very quickly, what did you do from June to November? And if you could just quickly tell me the time you spent on GK, was it progressively getting bigger and bigger as you moved towards the CLAT, or was it steady? If you could, yeah, you could start with Sia.
So first off, what sir said is extremely relatable. GK is so vast and you feel like, why are you doing this if only 5 topics are going to come? But then the thought that used to come in my head was, what if this comes and I had the chance to read it and I did not read it? And that just fills me with shame, you know. So just read everything, even if you're not. So to answer sir's question, June is from where people start to realize the importance of CLAT. Though if you start from Jan, maybe it's better to get into the habit. I started with making notes of the topics that came from Jan till June and of course forward. In fact, I had a lot of backlog as well. Like when I started in June, I didn't even start properly. So, you know, it's just important knowing when a current affair happens, what you have to pick and choose what are the important points to take from that current affair. So if a newspaper article comes in front of you and it's some current affair, maybe it's the Iran war, for example, you should pick up the place that it had happened, any relevant document that happened, maybe some charter which was signed a few years ago, the important leaders involved, any important summits. So that is how you pick it up from an article and note it down and of course revise. So starting from June, I did have to spend a lot of time. I think 2 to 3 hours used to go into GK, not only the newspaper used to be separate. And progressively the ratio of I gave for GK used to be much more than my other sections. I was practically ignoring my other sections because I was stressed about GK. So try not to do that. Begin from Jan and take notes, important notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's universal about GK is always that feeling of uncertainty of never knowing when you're done, because even a couple weeks before the exam, I was still having this feeling of not covering something which I should have. But what worked for me was selecting a few good sources that worked for me and then sticking to those sources. Asking your professors about what topic you think is important, and of course the news will show up, making notes and revising them regularly, because GK is not just about reading more, but also retaining it. So what I would do is every Sunday when we had a mock, every Sunday I would go back to my notes, I would revise it, and then the next week I would continue adding to those notes, either from newspapers or from the monthans, or maybe a question in the mock came from it. So not just the preparation, but also retaining it. And as time went by, the time that I dedicated for GK did increase. So towards the end, it was a lot more of GK. In fact, just a week before CLAT, I was doing only GK, just revising what I had already done and just building upon it. In November, there's usually not a lot of new GK that comes your way, so you do have to stick to what you've already memorized, what you've already learned, and static GK as well. And just, you know, sticking to your notes very well. When you do something over and over again, it just, you remember it better. It almost becomes a part of your muscle memory. And I think that worked for GK, but just keep expanding your horizons when it comes to GK, because what hurt me more was not, of course, I mean, it did hurt coming across a topic that I had not learned of at all, but what hurt more was coming across a topic that I had learned, but I still didn't know an answer to a question. So to avoid that feeling, just expanding as much as you can and building upon what you've already learned.
Before I go forward, just remember, especially advice for people who are in 11th, GK will become your main course in 12th standard. right? And for that to happen without it affecting your other areas, make sure that the other areas are fairly sorted, because the other areas are skill. The skill will not evaporate. Once you start hitting a 20 plus in English, you're there, right? It's a question of the mocks is enough to sustain it, or then it's all about GK, right? So make sure that you have the time. What maybe these guys are not going to tell you is that they had the time for GK in the last 3-4 months, because they were doing fairly okay in the reading sections. They were probably hitting a 65-70 out of 80 anyways in the mocks, so they could afford to give time. So you don't want any of those areas acting like a sword on your neck when you enter the last 4-5 months, right? Yeah.
So as they mentioned, the key to GK is making notes and revision. Revise whenever you can, wherever you can. You're sitting at home, if you have some free time in school, like just to make it fun, ask a friend to ask you questions from your notes. Revision is key in GK. And I know it can feel very overwhelming because, especially like in the past, we had a lot going on in the world, courtesy of the current US president, mostly. And GK, and it's not like something you can just blatantly ignore, because it's like 30 questions in AILET, almost 28 in CLAT. And in exams like these, if you want to get like a good NLU, every mark counts. So you have to make sure that your GK is sorted. Now, it's not possible to know every answer, obviously, so that's why you have to learn to develop the art of inference. So I think I touched upon this when I spoke previously, that when you're reading a newspaper, and this is key, you need to read as much as you can so you have an idea of a little bit of everything. You don't have to do a PhD on every single topic, but you need to have a general awareness so that if a question comes your way that you don't know the answer to, you're still able to infer it. So I'll give an example that actually happened with me in AILET. There was this question, which of the following countries have recognized Palestine? And I had the options were, I think, Japan, Canada, Australia, and France, I believe. So I had no idea. I knew 147 countries had recognized Palestine at that point, but I didn't know which those countries were. So I had to infer the right answer. So I guess that, yeah, I've read somewhere that Canada and Australia have issued statements in support of Palestine. I read somewhere that Canada had done the same. I had not read anything about Japan doing something similar. So I figured Japan might be the right option, and it was. So you need to learn how to infer the right answer, because you can't just leave the question and say, leave the question and move on, because again, every single mark counts, especially in GK, because GK is a differentiator. Like Sir said, that if you're a serious aspirant at this level of your preparation, you will be doing decently well in all other sections. GK will be the one that determines whether you get 100 or whether you're stuck in the 90s. So for that, you need to learn the art of inference. And again, I'll say all roads lead to Rome. Read eclectically.
Okay, I think we'll pause it of time, so we'll keep it open. Anyone wants to talk about GK now? You can absolutely pick up the mic and talk. Yeah.
So I started making notes right from 11th standard, and I would seriously advise this to anyone who is preparing right now for CLAT. When I started preparing the notes, they were daily notes, and by the end of like the last 6 months, they became topic-wise notes. Like for example, space and Operation Sindoor, India-Pakistan relations, India's relations with her neighbors. So I think that was really helpful for me. And yes, GK, the amount of information can be very overwhelming. So it is always good to consult with your teachers also, because most of our career launcher teachers also give the examination. It's not just like they teach the subjects, but they also give the examination. So they have a first-hand idea of the kind of questions which come in the exam. So consulting with them is also very helpful. And reading the newspaper right from the first page to the last page, because like the others also said, even if you don't make a note about it, it still gets retained in your memory somewhere, and that 1 mark can make all the difference.
What was your source?
My source, Hindu, Indian Express, and Weekly Manthan.
The Weekly Manthan?
Yes.
Okay.
So for me, the source was Manthan, and I found it to be too long to make notes from, like too time consuming. So what I used to do was, I used to tell Gemini to make notes for me, and I used to add it to a Word doc.
Okay, just in case someone's not heard it, Gemini was making the notes for him, right? So you have AI now, and the AI will make the notes for you, yeah. Fantastic.
So that was one thing I used to do.
Yeah.
And after the mocks, I used to come home, see what was wrong, and note it in my notebook. So I had one whole notebook dedicated to just writing whatever was wrong inside it, and then I was to revise it before the next mock. And I would also recommend keeping all the mocks in one folder, so that at least like 1 week before CLAT, you can review all the GK sections and just answer them like a quick quiz.
So you were using the mocks as a tool to understand the topics?
Yes.
And each mock was giving you certain topics to work upon?
And in the last few months, maybe 2-3 months before, I was totally short with reading. So I used to give a mock every day. So the reading sections were practiced in that. Maths I used to do for half an hour other than the mocks, and the rest of the day was for GK.
Okay. Graham?
Personally, I made my own notes. I did not like the Manthan that much. I personally made my own notes. And I used the mocks as a resource for GK in the last month. AILET mocks were especially good because CLAT sometimes asks one-liners which are not available in the passage.
Yeah.
I think GK really took the most of my time. I think I provided 4 hours daily to GK. So I treated it as like the first priority in my paper. The first problem people face with GK is it's really vast. And I made notes and I didn't like copy down the entire internet what it has to offer. The more you solve questions, the more you solve mocks, and the more you read news, you will get to know that you don't need to write every single thing. You need to write what the paper is striving questions for. There are only a select topics which can come. Obviously, Bollywood news cannot come. Other miscellaneous news cannot come. So I think the more you be prepared, because CLAT over the years is becoming highly unpredictable, so any topic can be asked. So I think you really need to be fully prepared, even if you at the back of the mind you know this won't come, still write it down because you never know.
I kept myself limited to very less resources, like my own notes, my handwritten digital notes, the monthans, and the newspapers. So there was a time where I went way too deep into GK, like the Operation Sindoor topic. I knew everything about it, कौन सा missile use हुआ, उसका range क्या है, कितना बड़ा है, सब मेरे को सब पता था उस बारे में. But when my mock scores started dropping because of my other sections, then that's when I realized that I have to give time to my logical, English, quants. And then that's when I stopped giving some less time to GK. Then I brought down my GK to like 3 hours, and then I would just revise my topics, my notes over the weekend and study new topics during the weekdays.
Brought it down to 3 hours, by the way, please note. Okay, I think some people in the audience need to take it up to 3. She brought it down to 3, so yeah.
So in the start, I used to find GK very difficult, mainly because I didn't know where to study GK from. Like I was trying everything and nothing actually was working out for me. So then in the end, what I did was I used to open the Manthan, I used to note down the topics, and then those topics, some of them would be state news or something, those I used to not do. But other than that, I used to do all the topics, but I used to make my own notes. I would go to many websites, I'd try to find pieces of information, whatever kept getting repeated, I'd mainly star mark that. And even I made my notes online mostly because in the end I needed someone to quiz me. So then I used to copy my entire notes and then I used to paste it in ChatGPT, and then I'd ask it to make questions for me. So like every day I used to keep, and every time I used to make different questions for me. So it really helped me to know if I actually knew what was there in my notes. And I like making handwritten notes also, but for me, digitally worked better.
I think increasingly, AI will become a very strong support system, right? Yeah.
One thing that I struggled with when it came to GK was specifically how vast everything was. And so, I mean, this may seem like a very silly kind of trick, but I would sort of treat it like gossip in the sense that, I'd find out links between certain topics that, that most people wouldn't necessarily. So it's sort of kind of as a mental kind of, So basically, like I went in kind of like my mentality was more of like, it seems like more of like kind of like a story rather than just like one static event that was just happening in like this kind of the vast abyss of the world. And so, for example, if you look at last year's Nobel Prize winner for peace, Maria Corina Machado, so that she basically was linked in terms of to Trump's kind of like this year, his, the whole kind of fiasco surrounding the US and Venezuela relations, and that kind of, forming that kind of link, not do it. I wasn't doing it up until like kind of 3 months in, like away from CLAT, and so I think that was really helpful for me.
And what was your source, major sources?
And I refer to YouTube videos because I'm more of a audio-visual learner, and so that kind of helped me sort of take in knowledge better.
Great.
Sir, sorry. Could I just add one thing to her YouTube video point? There is a career launcher, sir. If you do not know him, go search him up. Salik Ahmad, sir. Yeah. He makes excellent GK videos. Like, it was my primary source, to be honest, because he formulates them in question answers. You can take notes beside, and then he also tells you the context, historical context, and quizzes you on some more static GK related to the historical context. So, shout out to him, actually. I wanted to thank him. So, if he sees this, then yeah, thank you.
Sure. We'll convey it to him. Don't worry. How many of you went through the Hindu analysis? Was it useful? You went through the Hindu analysis? So there's a YouTube channel which also has the Hindu analysis, which does it. Anyone here for the Hindu analysis? No one went through that? Okay.
I used to not attend the Hindu analysis particularly, but those quizzes that used to happen on Menti, I really found them. Like he would tell the topic from before, and then they used to happen on Menti. And then I used to find that, seeing my name on the screen really motivating. So I used to love giving the Menti quizzes.
Yeah.
So in GK, like there's always this question that how many topics you need to cover and how in depth you need to cover each topic. So, but end of the day, you need to have faith in your sources. Stick to 2 or at most 3 sources, I would say, because you possibly can't cover everything. And there are other techniques that help me. Like I would make audio notes. Basically, I used to read out my notes. I used to record them on my phone and say when I was traveling to my coaching or from my coaching, I used to just listen to them because I was not in the mood to read something. Other ways you can make GK fun is that if you have like a group of friends, then you can divide topics and you can make a shared folder.
Okay, how many of you prepared GK with someone? There was always that, the person may not be here, but was there a friend you were there? You had a friend with whom you used to discuss GK. Anyone else here? So you all made your groups, and a group of what, 2-3 people?
We were a huge group, and some of them are here, some of them aren't, but I wouldn't have been able to give CLAT without them. I wouldn't have been able to get this rank without them. So I would really especially like to thank them, because we used to do GK less, but those raat ko 1 o'clock we would just sit and then we'd rant about our GK notes, and rather than like studying, and then in the middle, one person, when we were just randomly talking, one person would come up with a question, and then we'd be like, hame to ye nahi aata. And then we'd all go back, we'd research on the topic, get together the next day, and then quiz each other fully on that new topic. So, and our meetings used to start at 7, go on till 1. Usme se we used to study for like 2.5 hours, and then, but that used to be the break that I looked forward to every day, because I felt like my parents knew that I was studying, but it was like really studying and fun. So then that was a huge break for me, because end months you don't go out anywhere, and classes also, it's like once a week you're getting out of your home, because college also you don't go to college that much. So like these nightly calls where I talk to people who are having the same struggles as me really helps. So like a big thank you to all of them.
Yep.
Other than that, if you are in 11th, you should cover your static GK during that time, because in 12th, like last 6 months, you won't have the time to now go back to static GK and cover current affairs as well. Also, Indian Express has this section called E-Explained. That section, I found it very useful because it would explain any major current affair in detail. So you can refer to
That's the
that.
e-explain section in the Indian Express, which he's referring to. Yeah.
Yes.
So I would advise everyone to make their own notes. My resources were mostly Hindu newspaper, Indian Express Explained, Manthan 2.0, and some UPSC website which provided notes on in-depth notes on topics. And what I used to do was I used to carry my newspaper and GK notes to school whenever I used to go to school. And I would, instead of attending the lectures, I would read them. And that was a very major part of my day in school. Instead of learning, I would cover the entire newspaper in school. So I was free. When I went home, I was free to do everything else. And one thing I also used to do was I used to highlight important facts in the newspaper. And then when I used to go home, I used to jot them down. And I had 2 separate notebooks, one for one-liners, which was really helpful in AILET, and one for more in-depth analysis of topics.
Okay, I guess that's quite a lot of discussion on GK. Last section, and I don't want everyone to discuss this because I know there are some people sitting here who are always scoring a 10 or a 12 in math. And that's the one area where a lot of students find it. That's the last section that comes in the paper. But it's also, how many of you struggled with math for the first 1 year? It was a big struggle. Most of you? Yeah, so what was we'll start from here this time. Anyone can just pick up the mic and talk about what you think they should be doing. Maybe let's be more specific. Students in 12th standard, writing the CLAT now in the next 6 months, what would you advise them?
Practice. I think 100% practice is what I would do. Because I was up until like 6 months away from CLAT, the highest score I was getting in quantitative techniques was like a 2 or 3.
So Anisha, practice is a very vague. I mean, can you tell me something specific you were doing for quant? Apart from the mocks, what did you practice?
I would refer to all the booklets. I think I finished all of them like within the span of, I think 3 months. I was very sort of like, I would dedicate a majority of my CLAT prep to quants, I think in the 12th grade at least. And also this, I would basically, through Prasan sir's classes, I kind of improved because I would figure out like shortcuts to kind of looking for answers. And like another tip that like I struggled with was that I would tend to sort of look for the specific answer that I kind of had to unlearn because that is what is expected of you in your boards, in the CBSE, in the ISC. You need like a very specific answer. That is not what the CLAT demands of you. You only have to select one of the 4 options and you just have to kind of just eyeball it. That is something I struggled with and I had to kind of overcome. And the way I would do that, I would kind of like say to myself, WWPSD, what would Prasan sir do? And I had to kind of learn that way. Kind of remember what I had been taught in class, pay a lot of attention in quantitative techniques, and then sort of apply that when I was practicing.
So I was very scared of maths. So in 11th, I used to do maths, but it used to be like the last subject that I ever touched. If I was bored of the reading sections, that was the only time that I went to maths. And then I realized, no, I need those 12 marks if I have to get into a good college. I need those 12 marks to get me somewhere. So then I went to Prasan sir. I am attempting maths sometimes, but like I'm hardly getting a 2 or a 3. I'm getting 3 of them correct, 3 of them wrong. I'm not attempting at all. So then he told me that keep the last 10 minutes or 12 minutes of your mock only for maths. Like even if your other sections are left, just leave everything and go directly to maths. And so those 12 minutes, first I was able to solve 3 questions, then 4, then 5, and then 1 case that I was able to solve in like 12 minutes. And then once I started getting like a 6 on 6, I'm like, even if I give like a few more minutes, if I give like around 15 to 16 minutes, maybe I'll be able to solve at least 1.5 caselet. And then like that, in 22 minutes, I was able to solve all of them. So then I slowly started increasing my time that I was giving to maths. And then once I started scoring well, then it became like, okay, maths is also not that tough. It's just like a mental block that's there against maths for me. So what I'd suggest is keep those last 10 or 12 minutes only for maths, because once you start scoring, then you'll have more fun doing maths.
is an advice for people who are not doing math at all, right? Is there a problem? Am I audible? No. Yeah, no, it's fine. Okay, now it's fine. So for people who are not attempting it at all, maybe the starting strategy could be 10 to 12 minutes. But for those who are serious about getting a double-digit score, I would advise 15, 20 minutes you need to give, right? It's not unrealistic to expect doing well without that 15, 20 minutes. Anyone else would like to talk about it? Yeah.
There was a time in my initial mocks where I couldn't even reach to the quant section, and when I did, I would attempt 2 questions hardly, and both of them were wrong. And during June or July, in my last year, the year of my CLAT, I went running to Murli sir कि sir मुझसे नहीं हो रहा है कौन मुझे ना आंसर की समझ आ रही है कुछ भी समझ नहीं आ रहा है. And he just gave me one advice: just sit with all your old mocks, resolve them. Go with the answer key again, you will understand it, I take guarantee, just do it. And I did it. I solved 17 mocks, my old mocks, and it was actually very helpful. All my concepts got clearer, I started getting more practice, and it really helped me with my score. And there I had a lot of juniors coming to me right now also that I'm not able to score in maths, and trust me guys, it's very easy if you practice enough. I was able to score a 12 in my CLAT exam, and I had 35 minutes left for my quants only. So trust me, it's all possible. Just practice for quants and just clear your concepts as soon as you can. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else, or we move forward?
Could I address one point? Maths with school and maths with CLAT. Completely different. So I said this dialogue to my parents once कि if I do harder maths in school, then CLAT ka maths will be easy for me, right? So I was so wrong. I was so mistaken because it is completely different. School maths will be integration, trigonometry, differentiation. You don't need to do that, genuinely. Now I know it's too late to maybe change. I think it's June, right? So it's too late to change your decision. If you have taken maths, just don't pay too much attention to it right now because CLAT is completely different. Your sirs will teach you to rethink the way you're approaching maths because there are shortcuts and there are other methods which were never taught to us in school before. So focus on that part of preparation when it comes to quants. Thank you.
So one thing I did to improve my speed in maths was I would rote learn tables and inverses. And these 2 things are very important. And another thing I would do is I would redo the quant section in mocks and the worksheets done in class. And I would do them the way Prasan sir did them or would do them, using all the shortcuts and the approximation techniques and eliminating through logic.
Great. I'll go to one final thing as a part of the challenge and the preparation. There will always be the question of how much to give for the board preparation in this period between June to December, right? And I'm sure most of you would have given more priority to the CLAT and kept. How did you guys do? I know some of the scores here. I know Sanvi scored what, 98.5 in her IC. School topper, right? And I'm sure she didn't do much of it till December. Right? But anyone else in the 90s? Raise your hand if you're in the 90s. Yeah, okay, quite a few. Right, so it's not like, it's quite possible. The balancing act is there. You have to ensure that, I think the CLAT gets over on the first Sunday. The AILET gets over on the second Sunday. By the time the AILET gets over, I think the CLAT results comes out, which means these guys knew that we are done. And then you can just go all out with your HSC board for the last 3-4 months, which I believe is a reasonable time. Anyone who found 12th was seriously hampered because of my CLAT? Anyone felt that, oh shit, the CLAT was the reason I could not do well, or law preparation was the reason I could not do well in my 12th? Yeah, didn't do so well. Not so much. Regrets?
No regrets.
No regrets. Okay, great. Yeah, so that was one thing that I wanted to get out of the way, right? The priority in the last 6 months has to be CLAT. There's absolutely no 2 ways about it. If that can happen, you have a reasonable chance of doing well, right? Okay. Final thing, importance of mocks. I really want Anyone who has missed quite a few mocks here? Like hardly wrote, ikka dukka mock, once a month, mood aa gaya to likh liya? No. All of you took the mocks at the center? Anyone took the mocks at home? Ghar jaake likhunga, online likhunga? Right? So the toppers never write their mocks at home. The toppers will never write it online. The toppers will always ensure that they take it diligently on the D-Day. Whenever the mock happens, they will be there writing the mock, and which means that the mocks are absolutely critical, right? Anyone would just want, we have no time now, so maybe a minute that you would want to talk about how the mocks played an important role. Anyone? Why the mocks are important? Yeah.
I feel the importance of mocks, I mean, you have to start doing mocks from the get-go, because it kind of shows you what you're in for, right? And like Sir said, try and give as many mocks you can at the center, because the environment is a huge factor in any entrance exam, the psychological factor. You know, people will be there, they'll be talking, they'll be discussing. You don't need to let that, you have to not let that affect you. And while you're sitting there, you're writing the mock, it seems like a very minor issue. It seems pretty trivial, but trust me, it does play a huge role. If you're on a Sunday, after lunch, sitting in the center, you're tired and you give a mock versus you're sitting at home after taking a nap and you're giving a mock, the former will always prepare you better for the main test day. Because on the test day, you don't know what's going to happen, right? You might get to your center late, you might freak out, you might panic. I know I was panicking really, really badly. So when you give a mock, it kind of, because the more mocks you give, the more times you're able to play that different scenarios in your head. And so on the test day, you're prepared for anything. So try and give as many mocks you can at the center. I started giving about 2 mocks a week in the last couple months. So I would give one at home, one at the center. But even at home, I would make sure I'd give it only on 2 to 4 so that my body clock would get adjusted to that timing. I'd make sure no one would come in my room, it would be completely empty. Sometimes I would try and ensure that the conditions are a bit uncomfortable. So because on the test day, I don't want anything like bahut garmi, I don't want that to affect me. So again, these seem like trivial things, but trust me, they make a huge difference on the day of the test.
Yeah, so let's wonderful. Let's come to the final part, the D-Day, right? Any specific things that you would like to tell them about the D-Day? How was the D-Day? What, did it look very different? How were the nerves before the exam? How were the nerves when you opened the test? And any specific things you did that helped you on the D-Day that you did before. For example, I'll tell you, last year there was a student who used to give the mocks in 1 hour 55 minutes. So there was no way this person was giving 2 hours for it. 5 minutes was a buffer. So he used to start the test, the mock test used to start at 2:05, right? So eventually he got the confidence that in 1 hour 55 minutes I should be able to do it. Okay, so even if 5 minutes go bad, I have that extra buffer. Anyone did something similar or something you would like to tell them on the D-Day? How was the experience?
So my center was NLU Mumbai, Powai. And I don't know what festival, there was something on that day, okay? And just outside my center, I was sitting last row, corner, last row. And right outside, I could literally feel in my ears, there was somebody singing some bhajan. In my ears, I could like literally feel them screaming in my ears. I told the invigilator like, we can't do anything. And for the first 10 minutes, I just couldn't read anything. I'm like, what is this going on? I cannot focus. And then I'm like, I'm not letting this waste my entire CLAT attempt or year or whatever hard work I've put. So then I just shut my ears with one hand. I would read the passage with both my ears shut with my fingers. And then whenever I was just marking my question, that was the only time I'd open my ears, because that was one of the most distracting things. Like when you give the mock in the center, there is flights and all that go away because there's a airport nearby. So that all is there. But during that CLAT day, it's very easy to panic when you hear something like that. I just request everybody, don't panic on that CLAT day, because you would have performed amazingly well. And a lot of people panic during our CLAT day because analytical came. And this year, everybody had a different mock pattern. Like some people, first page was analytical. And for a lot of them, when they saw analytical first page, and then they moved to the second page, that also analytical, a lot of them panicked. And people who might have worked harder than me, who maybe deserved that, they didn't get it just because they panicked. So whatever you do on that day, just don't panic. I really don't know how I was so calm, what worked for me. But that day, I know in front of my eyes, I marked 3 questions wrong. I just marked them and I saw, okay, shit, I'm marking them wrong. And that would have been 3, that would have...
Just to give a context, you need to mark it with a pen.
Yeah.
The OMR has to be filled with a pen. So if you know you have made a mistake, there's nothing you can do about it.
You can't
change your answer. It's a negative shouting at you, but there's nothing much you can do about it. So you need to be very careful before you mark. Yeah.
I'd left 1 question. I moved on to the other 3 questions. And then one upper, I marked all 3 wrong in that order. And in the mocks, if something like this would have happened, I would have gone crying outside the room and I would have messed up the entire mock. But during CLAT, I don't know what kept me so calm. I'm like, leave it. 3 mark hi to hai. You yet have your entire math section left. You yet have half of logical left. You can't let these 3 questions mess it up. And then I completed the logical section, and then I went to maths. That also I did really well. So you just have to keep calm during that paper, and stuff like this happens. At a national level examination also, stuff like this happens. So that's why giving the mock at the center is, again, important.
Yeah, if I look at the average score of each one of them, the average over the last 6 months, trust me guys, there will be at least 50 students in Mumbai who are matching those. At least 50. And only 12 of them a year. Okay, so a lot of them were good enough. As far as the mocks were concerned, they were doing really well. But probably on the D-Day, they didn't do as well as these guys did. Maybe the difference was only 3 marks. But 3 marks is about 400 ranks. And that's the game there, right? So eventually, you can do everything correct, but then it's on the D-Day. How do you perform on the D-Day? How do you maintain your pressure? Keep calm. The distractions will be there. 3 years back, there was a center in Bhandup, which was very close to a railway line. So the rails were going there. I took my CAT 25 years back, and there was a marriage going on in IAS school in Dadar. Us couple ko itni badduaएं mile hongi from all the aspirants, right? I can't imagine that. Sunday morning, December will be a marriage day there, right? Yeah, so anyway.
Also, sir, always expect the unexpected. So when we were preparing for CLAT, I actually expected a lot of wrong questions to occur, because that's what I heard from my seniors, that their paper went wrong because of the questions which were wrong in the paper, and that messed with their confidence. So I went into the paper thinking there might be a lot of wrong questions, a lot of uncertainty that could come. Luckily for us, I think only 1 or 2 were wrong.
Yeah.
But then there was another surprise. There was analytical reasoning in our paper, right? So just stay calm, stay collected, stay in the present, focus on what you're marking on your paper. You use pen, focus on making sure you're writing your roll number correct. I was worried about that, to be honest. And yeah, so surprises will be there. I'm pretty sure your CLAT, I'm eager to see what surprises come in this year's CLAT as well, just so that I can think that, okay, maybe I helped you to understand ki surprising ho gaye. You just have to be calm and mentally prepared. I hope it helps. Thank you.
Yeah. In fact, I always tell students, if you're a good student, if I'd asked them 10 days before the CLAT, would you want a paper to be tough or easy? What do you think was the answer? B. Tough or easy? Very easy paper, very tough paper. Tough paper, right? Negative marking hona chahiye, nahi hona chahiye? Hona chahiye. Absolutely no brainer as far as I'm concerned. And if I'm mentally tough, surprise hona chahiye, nahi hona chahiye? If I'm mentally tough, I will say hona chahiye. I believe I can tackle the surprise better than the others. So anything that happens to me, any wrong that happens to me is happening to everyone. So there's no point in panicking, absolutely. If it's a tough paper, it's tough for everyone. If it's an easy paper, it's easy for everyone. So it's not really going to make life very difficult. Okay. Last, shout out to everyone and anyone that you want to. Your parents, your friends, your brothers, siblings whose life you guys must have made hell. At home, the support systems you must have got. Yeah, so you want to keep a shout out to your mentors, to your faculties, plus first your family.
I would want to give a shout out to my mom. She really helped me a lot,
Yeah, please, guys, your mom, dad, I'm sure the family must have made sacrifices. Some sacrifices, right? You must have gone crying to them. Nahi ho raha hai mujhse. Anyone with that story?
So I started my preparation with 9 months to go. I was like, bhai, ab to 9 mahine to bahut band bajne wali hai. And I had, from the beginning, I had this, I don't know why I had this idea that I was not going to get in. Like, I was not going to clear CLAT, I was not going to get AILET. I was just giving it because I wanted to. But my mom, my dad, both of them were very supportive. Especially my mom, she would be like up with me at like 11, 12 at night saying, Koi nahi, you can do this. Don't worry. You have to believe in yourself. Focus on the preparation. Because that's the main thing. In any entrance, in any competitive exam, there'll always be people who are better than you. No matter how good you are, you'll always find someone who's better at you than something. So the main thing that my mom taught me was to focus on what you are doing. Because it doesn't matter what the other person is getting. If they're getting 100, they're getting 120, 40 out of 120, you have to see how much are you getting. You have to focus on your preparation. And my mom taught me that. So thank you, Mama. As for my dad, he always told me, and this really paid off on the day of the test, is to stay calm. Nothing in life is that deep. Don't worry. Don't panic. On the day of the exam, any big deal in your life, whether it's an exam, whether it's a personal issue, whatever it is, be calm, be collected. Don't let panic get to you, and give your best and you'll be fine. So that's to my mom and dad. I was also fortunate. I had a lot of friends who were very supportive. A lot of them were not even giving CLAT, but they were with me every step of the way. They would encourage me. So I think that's really important to have that kind of support system, because ultimately every competitive exam, it's more than a skill game, it's also a mindset game. Like Sir said, there are a lot of kids who may have had the same average scores as us, but on the day they panicked. On the day maybe they weren't at their best, so they didn't do so well. So it's, at the end of the day, it's all about mindset. So it's really important to have the right kind of people around you to make sure that your mindset is optimized on the day.
I'm really grateful to my mom for helping me memorize the notes and quizzing me. I still remember she created so many weird mnemonics to help me remember the missile names and all used in Operation Sindoor. And I still remember those mnemonics. And also to my dad, because he kept me accountable. He would ask me my rank and my marks, and then he would question me where I was, why I got those particular ranks and marks, and helping me calm down and not get in my head and get nervous, especially on the CLAT day. He was the one who drove me there, and that car ride was so relaxing. I think that was really helpful, and why I did not panic when I saw that analytical passages in CLAT.
Yeah.
I want to thank my parents a lot. They never created a pressure on me that you have to bring a rank or you have to be very good. They never questioned my scores or my ranks, nothing at all. We trust you, you prepare the way you want, and we believe you that you will bring a rank. And that created a very relaxed environment in my house especially. And I had a senior from an NLU helping me throughout my preparation, Virat Sagar, so a big thanks to him also.
Okay, I just want to chip in again for a minute. One of the reasons why their parents supported them completely was also because they saw the effort. Okay, and this is something I'm talking as a parent whose child just cleared 12th. If the parent sees that the child is putting in the effort, I think it's easier for the parent to support, because the parents intrinsically know that bacha mehnat kar raha hai. Okay. But it's not fair to expect that same support from the parents if you are not going to put the hard yards, right? So I think it's both ways. To the parents, I would say, if you want to kind of put some pressure on the kid, it has to be on the process, not on the outcomes. The outcomes is a function of the processes being put in, so you can be brutal on the processes. Don't be so brutal on the outcomes. The outcomes will take its time. Yeah? Okay, anyone else?
There are so many people I want to thank, but let's start with my parents, my mom and dad. My dad, he used to get those emails from CL with our mock scores. So then he'd come up to me, he'd keep asking me why this mock score went down, or if I would score well, then he'd come, he'd congratulate me. For my mom, like, she'd always take care if I was eating well, if I was sleeping well. She would just always be there at home. Like, I grew close to her during these CLAT months because I used to not go to college. I used to be at home all the time. And then she'd also be there with me. So a big thank you to my mom and my dad. He's not here today. And then to my Masi and my Nana. They both, so I'd send them YouTube videos of the topics I wanted to study. And then they make notes for me on those topics, because in the end, suddenly I realized, shit, I have this topic also left, I have this topic also left. And then last few months, I'd send them those videos, and then they made notes for me, and then I'd studied from those notes. So thank you. To my Nani, she'd always keep praying, she'd always keep calling me every morning, she'd call me, so big thank you to Nani also. And to my teachers, Aparna Miss, thank you so much for everything you've ever done. Murli sir for those maths basics, and Prasanth sir for those tricks, thank you. And Vineet sir for legal and GK, a big thank you to everybody. And to my friends, Harsh, Shreyas, Nachiket, Vanisha, and who else? Rashi. Rashi. And if I'm forgetting somebody, we were a group of 8 people. A huge thank you to all of y'all. I couldn't have done it without y'all. And if I'm forgetting everybody, whoever my school friends or whoever just played a huge role in my CLAT, and I wouldn't be here without them. So a huge, huge thank you to all of them.
The takeaway is, please take help. It's absolutely fine. I think a lot of kids after 10th, they'll come and say, I want my space and all nonsense. Dad, I can do it now because you got a 94 in 10th without the parents intervening. I think in a CLAT exam, you need that support. I mean, she didn't have a problem taking that support from a nani. Right? She was helping her with the GK. Okay.
My sister also, she's giving me big eyes. Yeah. But I used to...
GK, for example, if you don't have a friend, you are a loner, tumko padna hai, just teach it to your mom and dad on the dinner table every day. They have to be your student. Right? If you have a sibling, chota hai to bully. You can be the GK teacher. Okay, absolutely no problem with that. Worst case, go back to what you did 10 years back. Teacher. You can explain it to the wall. Kisi ko to padhana hai, right? Bakra banao. Okay. Anyone else?
To my sister.
Yeah. Sorry. It's on.
But I really need to thank her. To my sister, I had taken up the entire room. My notes were everywhere. My books were everywhere. Taken up the bigger cupboard. I used to stay awake, and then she used to be sleeping, so then I used to disturb her at night also. She helped me complete my notes, my journals, everything. So like a big, big thank you to her, because she's doing it right now. She's taking the bigger cupboard, and I'm hating it, so I can't imagine how she must be feeling. So love you, Maria, and thank you.
Yeah, anyone here?
First of all, thank you to my lovely parents. They are present in the audience. And as Prasanth sir said, I do have a younger sibling, and I did make his life hell, and I'm not sorry. But I think even my parents and my family would acknowledge this. The biggest support in this CLAT journey have been Aparna Miss, Vineet sir, and Prasanth sir. It truly would not have been possible without them. Thank you for dealing with all our doubts. Thank you for dealing with all our idiosyncrasies. The results year after year demonstrate their brilliance in a way mere words could never do. So yes, thank you to them. And I would also like to thank every student who was in my batch. Sanvi and Gia are present here today, but also everyone else. They really made me look forward to the classes, and it is because of them that I hardly missed any classes. So thank you to them also.
Yeah, anyone else? Yep.
I would like to thank my parents for always having faith and trust in me. Also, like after CLAT, there was this uncertainty whether the cutoff will be high, will it be low this time, or whether there will be a reclat. So, but like always, my mom always comforted me that a bad mock or even a bad CLAT is not the end of the world. Like it's okay, and I'm very grateful to it.
Okay, lovely. Sure. So. Anyone else, or we can close the session now? Thank you. Yeah, sorry.
No, I'd like to obviously shout out to my parents, like everyone here. My mom was the one to keep me accountable for everything. She'd, sit with me till like late into the night and just, listen to what I was saying, just hear me out. I think she remembers more about Operation Sindoor than I do now. And obviously, for my mom who was keeping me accountable, there was the foil, who was my dad. He'd be the one to kind of hype me up, keep me calm, and just sort of say that, Bacha, I know that you're smart, I know that you'll do well. And, I couldn't have done any of this without them. And obviously, thank you to the career launcher faculty, Prasanth sir, Aparna ma'am, Murli sir, and Vineet sir. I was obviously, like, their classes were extremely helpful, and I couldn't have done this without any of them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. It was lovely having you. And on small request, once we are done with it, okay, I'd like to keep it open for the. Yeah. Hi. Okay, just give me 2 minutes, right? You can come. We'll just take the questions and then we'll come, right? Okay, I think we'll keep it open for a couple of questions from the audience. Anyone wants to question them, please. Raise your hand, take the mic. Yeah, any questions, please, for the audience? From the audience? Yeah.
Hello, good evening. My questions actually generalized to the audience because I'm an IGCSE student.
Where are you?
Finished.
Oh, yeah.
I've just finished 10th, and I'm struggling to decide between A-levels and IBDP and how I'm going to balance either A-levels or IBDP with CLAT. So if anybody here is taking like Cambridge or IB and they're balancing it with CLAT, I'd really like to know how.
I was also struggling with that thing in my mind, but with the help of these career launcher guys, I could figure out that it will be better if I go for a junior college, as you suggest. Otherwise, A levels is the best option. IB is really difficult because I've surveyed all that. But it's going to be tough.
Okay, did we get the question?
It was for the audience.
Okay. Yeah, any questions from the audience? Yeah.
Hello, sir. Good evening. I am Janardhan Patel. I have come with my daughter Anushka. She is studying in this career launcher Nerul. She is doing pretty well in other than these two things, GK. So once again, if you have already the allotment discussion has been done. So I hope she will be there next year.
Lovely. I think one of the outcomes I would love to see after the session is done is every parent getting this confidence from the child that, I'll be there. You have to tell your parents, I'll be there next year or the year after, depending on whatever you're doing. Whatever it takes, this is the goal, right? Okay, great. Any other questions? Yeah, you had a question. You can just shoot the question. I'll repeat again if I can hear. Okay, she's confused HSC versus ISC. Those who are in the, okay, you came from ICSE to HSC. What was the reason for that?
So I thought HSC was going to be easier, but when you come from ICSE to HSC, it's a big change, and the syllabus and how you have to write the answers and stuff, it's a big change. So I don't think going to ISC is necessarily detrimental to CLAT. You know, we have students here who have managed CLAT and ISC brilliantly. So I think if you, especially if you are from ICSE, I think ISC might actually be better for you.
I think Sanvi is from ICSE, ISC. She's incidentally, by the way, just to share with you, she's ICSE rank, All India rank 2. All India rank, right? Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So one big reason why I chose ISC was because I wanted to stick with my school timings, which were from 7 to 1. So then I had the rest of the day for my CLAT preparation. But yes, I don't think, one thing I would recommend would be very selective with the subjects that you take. Try not to take subjects that are very intensive, that require to take additional classes and tuitions. I didn't. So that helped me because then, so then I had the rest of the day to myself, just for CLAT. One thing I did was I would try to complete my 12th syllabus in school itself. So let's say I had half an hour or just an hour to myself. I would just take up one chapter and then do it. So that helped me to balance 12th as well as CLAT. But I think ISC with the right subjects won't necessarily be much of a load on you. And if you just strike the right balance and manage both of them well, I think it's pretty much, you can do it.
Okay. Any other question? Yeah.
Yeah, most of the candidates on the stage are either from CBSE, ICSE or HSE. Do you have any specific suggestions for somebody from IGCSE?
Yeah, I mean there are students from the IGCSE, but I don't think they're on the stage.
No, I mean any specific preparation you would recommend for somebody from A levels?
I don't think it is any different for the sections apart from quant. For the rest of the sections, I don't think there's any difference at all. In fact, the kind of preparation they've gone through for 10 years helps them for the English part. English is supposedly very strong. Quant, the reason being that they don't have calculators, right? They play with calculators. So because you have calculators and this is a very calculation intensive exam, quant can be the only area where it can be an issue. Apart from that, I don't see a problem at all.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, you had a question. Okay, this only science kid. What was it to be a PCM student and prepare for the CLAT?
Mostly I did not study for science at all. And after CLAT, I started studying for science. Physics was hard this year, as you have seen the board paper. That's it. I had CS, so practicals were easy in that.
Yeah. But how much did you score in 12th?
89.83.
Yeah, not bad. Right? Are you in 11th or 12th? 11th, right? So just make sure that your 11th is not a honeymoon period now. If you're fairly sorted in your 4 sections apart from GK, by the time you step into 12th, you will be able to balance it, right? Yeah.
I have a little different question. So because all of y'all are going to go to like another city for the next 5 years, isn't that thought like daunting and scary to y'all? What do y'all think about that?
What? I thought all of them wanted to run away. Yeah. Is it scary for anyone, the idea of going?
It's only scary after the exam is done. That's when the realization sets in that, you know, now I have to leave home, I have to go to another city. But until the exam, I didn't really think about it.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's exciting, but it's very scary also. So like random thoughts come to my mind and then I start crying because like I'll miss my parents or like I'll miss this familiarity that's in the city because like born and brought up in Mumbai and now I'm going to Gandhinagar. So that, yeah, of course you're scared, but then of course there's that motivation, okay, no, I'm going for a better future over there. There's something better for me there. And if I got this rank, then like why not? That was my main reasoning with my parents also. They wanted me to stay in Mumbai. But then I convinced them, okay, no, Gandhinagar is like a better college and campus-wise also. And I always wanted that campus thing. So then, yeah, it's just that there's something better for you there and that makes it a bit less scary.
I think it'll be a little scary for the parents to send you, but not for, yeah.
I'm not going to lie, it is a scary thought. it is new, it is unusual, it is something that, I'm an only child, so this is going to be the first time I'm going to be away from home and with a completely different background, with a completely different group of people, and something that's new, something we've not done before. So yes, it's unusual, but ultimately this is what you are preparing for. This is what these 6 months will be for. And yes, as Kritika said, the realization sets in later, but ultimately, I am looking forward to it. I am excited to it. And even throughout the preparation, I think my parents and even the faculty here, like, they will be encouraging you, they will be preparing you. And I wanted to add, just as an afterthought, Prasan sir, your maths tricks are amazing. So anybody who has Prasan sir as a faculty here, just stick to his maths tricks and calculation guides. Vineet sir, there was a point where I was only studying for your GK questions on Sunday. Aparna miss, your notes, the best. And they will help you, they will guide you, they will mold you into somebody who is ready to take on these challenges. And ultimately, that's what you're here for, aren't you?
Okay. For those who are scared of going out, they'll be the best 5 years of your life. And you'll appreciate home food more at the end of it. So, yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Maybe last one or two? Yeah.
Sir, I wanted to ask for IGCSE kids. So IGCSE kids who've passed 10th grade and are going to come to a career launcher guys, the whole pattern is very different on what they have, right? So now, what do you recommend? How many hours should they put in instead of the ICSE kids who are still in the stream, you know? Because our learning pattern is very much different than this. So what is your suggestion?
I don't think the efforts will vary. You'll have to put in the same efforts just because you're on a different board. If you think your priority is to get into a top law school and with the board you cannot make it, change the board, period. But I don't think because you're on a different board, you can start giving half the time and still expect the same results. I mean, you still have to put in the efforts for GK. It's just that I would say if you're conscious of the fact that 12th will be stressful, make sure that the 11th is something. See, if you ask all these kids, they would say that they probably didn't do much in 11th. That was a time when they really could have done a little more. So maybe you need to be conscious of it and do a little more in 11th so that 12th gets a little more spaced out. But I think the efforts in the last 3 to 4 months will be there. You can't run away from those efforts.
Given the impression like these IGCSE kids have to put in a little way more effort than the
I don't think so. I think it's only the math part which is fundamentally different for them because it's more of a block since we are used to calculators for their calculations. But let me assure you, most of these kids, even if they did not come from that board, the kind of math you do in 9th and 10th has, as she said, has nothing to do with the CLAT math. You still have to go back and do your tables. You still have to go back and do your inverses. I don't think those fundamentals change even for a non-IGCSE kid. So eventually you'll have to put in that same effort. Not something you should do worry about.
Hello.
Okay, Kritika Meena, right? Hello. Yeah, Kritika. So we have an achiever. Could not invite her before. Please come on stage. So I'll do the honors. Kritika is going to NLSIU Bangalore, so your batchmates are here. You can network with them. Okay, pleasure. Hello. Okay, so with that. Yeah.
Hello.
Vihan. Okay, sorry. I haven't given it. Okay, we'll take the question.
Yeah. Hi.
Get
Hello.
So he needs to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listening to all these amazing, I will not say kids, now they are young adults. I just want to understand that everybody's talking about the last 6 months and, how do you strike that perfect balance? Like what do you have to really pump up to, kind of reach where you are there, on that spot? Really want to check
balance between
their board exams, their CLAT, and because the age is such, you have every other distractions also going on. So how do you actually take that off?
I don't think there will be a perfect balance because how do you define a perfect balance, right? It's eventually, there is always going to be some piling up of the 12th.
So let me just rephrase it. How do you get out of the distractions and focus on, the ultimate result? That's because that's kind of crucial at this point.
Yeah. Anyone wants to take up that question?
I think you just have to want it that much and work towards it. Like, you need to want it, like, to get into a good college, and that's the only thing that will keep you motivating. Because, like, how much can other people motivate you? At the end, it has to come from inside only. Like, the motivation to get in, it has to come from inside.
Yeah, I mean, eventually it's about how badly you want it. It's never about the intelligence. So, yeah.
So did the fear of not being able to perform when it matters grip your heart so tight that you stopped performing itself in mocks? So you were probably performing well and then you were like, ki, nahi, itne se nahi hoga, you need to score more. And that fear or that tension and that pressure that you created by yourself, did it ever pull you down? And if it did, what did you do to fix it? I mean, because I'm suffering.
This actually happened to me in November, like a month before CLAT. So like I was doing pretty well in my mocks and ekdam se like my score started dipping to 80s, almost 70s. And I was like, ye kya ho gaya ekdam se? And it happened like in a bunch of mocks, like 4 or 5 mocks. I was kind of worried that 1 month before CLAT this is happening, this is not the ideal place to be. So I kind of introspected and realized that I am getting nervous, I'm getting scared. Because now the exam's finally here, everything that we've worked so hard for, it's finally coming to a head. And now I'm getting performance anxiety. So to that, again, I'll say it's a mindset trick. Just calm down. Remember what you're doing this for. This exam ultimately is a pathway to something greater, right? To the college you want to go. This exam is not the end all be all for you. You've worked so hard, and as long as you have true faith, hard work, and in your own ability, you'll be fine. Yes, there'll be bumps. Yes, there'll be ups and downs, but that's all part of the journey, and that's what actually shows you what you're made of. So just relax, just breathe. Remember who you are, remember why you're doing this, and I'm sure that you'll do well.
Vihan, if you could just come out, I just want to give you...
Hi, excuse me.
Thank you so much. Wonderful done. Congratulations. Very nice. Yeah, we'll just take a couple of more questions because we need to wind up. Yeah.
Hi. So I have a quick question. How do you all exactly handle competition and not compare yourself with like other aspirants, and how do you like just focus on yourself? Because I feel like sometimes I'm always comparing myself to my classmates and their scores, and that just makes me
That's natural, I guess. Yeah, anyone wants to talk about competition, how not to focus on competition, or does it make sense to focus on it so that you get more motivated?
It's part and parcel of everybody's CLAT journey, I feel. Baju wale ko 100 aa raha and you're like 60s. Of course, you'll think, if that person can get, why can't you? But then again, surrounding yourself with good people, the correct people who motivate you, and even if you don't score well, they'll be like, no, next mock may you'll get better than us, don't worry. Having that positive competition rather than that bad competition is...
I think it's a balance of the two. You can't be a frog in the pond. At the end of the day, you need to see competition to motivate you, but you also need to understand that once the mock is done, it's you, right? It's about your mistakes. You're the only person in the world who knows why you made those mistakes. So competition really doesn't matter when it comes to the analysis part of it. But eventually, you need to compete with someone to understand whether the processes are right. Your percentile, in a way, is telling you whether the question is actually, the section was easy or tough. So you could score more than your previous mock, but your percentile can still go down. And you could score a lot more and a lot less, and then your percentile still goes up. So competition in that sense is important. But when it comes to the analysis, you're on your own, right? You need to make sure that
one thing I would like to say is, whoever got more marks than you, rather than viewing them as competition, view them as assets. You can seek help from them, you can ask them, or you can analyze why they are better than you and then work on that. And one thing my dad always told me is that collaboration kills competition anytime.
In fact, if you know someone who is doing better than you, catch hold of that person to do GK. Yeah, very great people. So that's important.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, hi.
Actually, here everyone's been here from 11, 12. So my daughter is now in the HSC, and we have just applied at Career Launcher. So she has begun her class in March, March. So I'm just trying to think, would it be possible for her to crack the December CLAT, or how tough it's going to be?
I want her to tell you that I will do it.
Yeah, she's here.
Don't wait for someone else to say you can do it better.
So will it be easier?
Absolutely not a problem at all. They all started their preparation in June last year.
Okay.
So I understand. GK anyway comes from the last 7 to 8 months, and that's where the majority of the time that they spent on it. Maybe she will not be able to spend the same amount of time on GK that they
That's
could.
because she's going to college, so I mean, attendance there is also compulsory. So
Absolutely. So eventually you got 24 hours. See, it's a very personal question. It will be nice if you could connect and I can give you what needs to be done there. But look, at the end of the day, it's about not me saying it, but about she saying and telling you that, Mama, don't worry, I'll do it.
Sure.
That's half the battle won. Sure. And then we can help with how it has to be done.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, guys. I hope this was helpful. I hope to see a lot of you guys on this side next year, and love to have all the parents of the achievers on stage for the photographs. We missed you earlier on, but we would love to.
Heard the stakes are high, but still you bet on everything. All those voices tell you anything. Baby, you gon' hurt yourself if you keep listening. Inside it with you, inside it with you, inside it with you, but you don't follow through. Inside it with you, inside it with you, inside it with you, but you don't follow through. I've been through all the highs and lows and lows, and I've seen it all from time ago. Was hoping by now that you would know, to see yourself out, it's time to go, to go.